Kamala Harris's K-Hive trolls boosted by bots while media defends harassment campaigns. So, establishment news attempt to put a positive spin on Twitter's nest of Vice President Kamala Harris's superfans known as the K-Hive, omitting the group's online abuses, offline harassment, and alarming origins. So you've heard them talk about the K-Hive on establishment news, and it's always in positive ways, right? They're always saying nice things. Describing the K-Hive as the type of modern political army that politicians increasingly rely on for both support and defense, its members are painted as political realists united by a desire to defend one of the most powerful politicians in the country from unfair attacks. I think I love that line. I read it 3 times earlier and laughed, so I want to read it again. Its members are painted as political realists, united by a desire to defend one of the most powerful politicians in the country. That is fucking awesome. United by a desire to defend one of the most powerful. Anyway, so here we go. Here's Bernie bros are loud, proud, and toxic to Sanders' campaign. Kamala Harris built a dignity army. Now she gets to a digital army. Sorry, digital army, and now she gets to use it. So that's how the Daily Beast is covering the K-Hive. But you already saw that they're trying to target people for harassment on social, and I'm one of them. It turns out that Kamala Harris's modern political army was manufactured with the aid of an army of fake Twitter accounts.
Huh.
What? I thought that's what the Russians did. I thought the Russians did that, and it turns out the Democratic Party and our vice president is doing the exact same thing as the Russians. After the term K-Hive was formally branded by MSNBC pundits like Joy Reid, K-Hive leaders received a boost from the Democratic Party operative-controlled bot farm. Really? K-Hive members who were connected to a network of fake Twitter accounts, some of which used the profile photos of deceased women of color. In fairness, we've all done that. Right? I mean, who hasn't done that? Come on. By the way, Joy Reid came up with it alongside Kamala herself when they were both time traveling to stop Russian hecklers and hackers and listen to music that hadn't been released yet. I don't know if you know that. They came up with it. So here we go. In 2018, a forensically detailed investigation discovered a network of Twitter bots run by Democratic Party communications consultant Sally Albright. Get the F out of here. Are you kidding me? K-Hive founder Bianca Della Rosa and her fellow K-Hive ringleader known as Mr. Day 1982 and Mr. Weeks 19 were among the Twitter accounts most promoted by the bot networks. Really? No kidding. The bots most commonly retweeted negative or positive words was racist, artificially boosting tweets accusing Bernie Sanders supporters of racism. I got accused of that. I get accused of that all the time. Well, first it was a commie. They used to call him commie. Then it was anti-Semitic. Then it was sexist. Now it's racist. Right? First it started off sexist for Bernie Sanders. Then it was communist. Then it was anti-Semitic. Now it's racist. That's the label that sticks. That's a career killer. That's like permataint. That's what that is. Beware the identity politics, even in small doses. It's promoted by the establishment in corporate America for a reason. Just keep that in mind. For a reason. And by this is also we don't come together and say what the fuck. That's what this is all about. In 2019, Albright was again caught gaming Twitter for fraudulent purposes. However, her Twitter account was not banned until the late 2020, near the end of the election. That's very interesting also. Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that?
At least 3 K-Hive's founders, Bianca Della Rosa's accounts, were eventually suspended by Twitter for violations, including abuse and harassments. So K-Hive's getting banned by... I don't hear that story in the media, Matt. Why don't I hear that story in the media? K-Hive leader Kenny Walden tweets under @2raw2real is notorious for calling for the death of Bernie Sanders, has been banned on Twitter at least 3 times before under various aliases for reasons such as managing multiple Twitter accounts for abusive purposes. And there he is. He's got a coffin for Bernie. Bernie, here's a coffin for you. We want you to get in. using multiple accounts to circumvent suspension to violate Twitter's rules. In fact, K-Hive uses the very same tactics that Twitter banned QAnon accounts for using. Isn't that something? So here we are. It's amazing. According to LA Times, the K-Hive is just a bunch of moderates who tend to promote pragmatic liberalism. That's according to legacy media. That's because, again, whenever you do something horrible, if you lie or commit violence or whatever you do at the behest of the establishment, there's never a price to pay because the establishment media will say it's okay. And that's exactly what they're doing. Okay.
I'm just calling for people's death. That's very pragmatic.
Very pragmatic. Harris and her husband, Douglas Emhoff, Kamala Harris and her husband, Douglas Emhoff, have openly embraced and encouraged the K-Hive, praising its members as pretty awesome. So let's bring in the author of that article at the Gray Zone, Matt Orfala. Matt, that's amazing. So you're telling me that everything they accused the Russians of doing and the Bernie Sanders supporters of doing, of being vicious online, the K-Hive actually not only has been doing it en masse, but they've been getting banned for it from Twitter, and nobody's reporting this stuff. Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and the other big difference is they were supported by a bot farm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
amazing.
The Bernie bros actually never were supported by a bot farm. That was Correct the Record, which was Hillary Clinton's bot farm, who did that. And now K-Hive is a bot farm being propped up by the Democratic bots. And, of course, black is white, in is out. And whatever they accuse their enemies of, they're actually guilty of. That's exactly what you got to learn from Russiagate. Everything they said, they were actually doing. Who was getting information on Donald Trump from from spies inside the Kremlin? Hillary Clinton's campaign was doing that. That's who was getting information on their political opponents from inside the Kremlin. Hillary Clinton's campaign was doing that. We documented it and reported it on this show. Keep them up, please. So everything they accuse you of doing, they're actually doing. So Matt, what else did I miss on this story?
Well, let me add, since you brought up Russia. So I didn't make that much of a comparison in this article here. I did compare them to QAnon. But regarding Russia, since publishing the article, I looked up the Atlantic Council. They have their digital forensics lab that's always tracking Russia on Twitter and social media. And I looked at the numbers they got for the last 5 years. And the monthly average of activity from the Internet Research Agency, which we've all heard of. That's the alleged Russian troll farm.
That was a Russian troll farm that they said was throwing the election. And it turns out what that actually was investigated before by corporate media, and it was revealed that they're just a regular troll farm that tries to get clicks to sell advertising. That's all they were, right, Matt?
That's yeah. Aaron Matei has done some good reporting on that. So here's the deal. So those numbers, their monthly output, whether, in Ukraine, all around the world, not just America, is about the same output as this one Sally Albright bot farm.
No kidding.
Yeah. About 150,000, tweets.
So the Sally Albright bot farm, the Democratic Sally Albright bot farm, which eventually lost her Twitter account, right?
Yeah, at the end of the election,
yeah.
When it didn't matter anymore.
Yeah. So they actually did everything that they were accusing the Russians of doing and the Bernie Bros of doing. They were actually doing it. To support a female candidate, they were doing every gross, underhanded, mean thing that they were accusing their enemies of doing. Kamala Harris and the Democrats were actually doing that. And now who's being naive, Kay? What in the fuck? But that's, if you listen to legacy media, they're going to tell you that. If you turn on MSNBC, they're going to tell you that people who speak out against the war in Syria are Russians and they're traitors to our country. And they're going to tell you that anybody who pushes for progressive policies is a sexist and a racist. That's what they've said about me. That's what they've said about me for sure, because I advocated for Medicare for all. So that makes you a sexist and a racist and a white supremacist too. So I just want to show you something. This is kind of funny. For those people praising Bernie Sanders on proposing to lower the age eligibility for Medicare, it was actually then First Lady Hillary Clinton who came before the Senate back in 1993, and they show a video of her saying that. What? So that's a K-Hive person. And so then another huge loss for Bernie, who was unable to marry Bill Clinton and do this in 1993 and still fail. So, and then Hillary Clinton retweets this. This is a K-Hive person. Tweet what? I don't. That isn't that weird that she would retweet that. Hillary Clinton thinks posting a video evidence that she completely sold out to Big Pharma is somehow a win, because here she was arguing for a lower Medicare age back then, and now she's not. She didn't even do it. Anyway, so here, that same person put out a list of people that were going to be targeted on social media by the K-Hive. The following progressives may go through some things pretty soon. Ryan Knight, Brianna Gray, MMA socialist Jimmy Dore, Katie Halper, Cenk Uygur, and Annexus Berry, and I heard paid to get on that list. I heard they paid to get their name on that list because they're losing so much credibility.
That list that you showed earlier about people who are going to go through some things, well, Matt, another K-Hive sort.
Matt, when is that tweet from? When was that tweet? Do you know?
I looked it up. It looks like it does look like 2019.
2019.
But they did mention it in the LA Times article,
right? And
they let their source say that it was not a threat. However, their other source recently on Twitter threatened everybody on that list, saying you're going to lose your something is going to happen, and you're going to lose your motherfucking jobs. And so that they left that out of the article. And he also called everybody on that list a white supremacist. So congratulations,
no
Jimmy.
Kidding.
Congratulations, you, Brianna Joy Gray, and
I always suspected that Brianna Joy Gray was a white supremacist. I always suspected that. Her and Cornel West.
Yeah.
They're probably white supremacists. So you read an LA Times article that was whitewashing what the K-Hive was doing, right? So and when was that article written?
Last week.
Oh, so that.
About a week ago.
I didn't know that.
That's why. That's what spurred me to do
this.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Maran.
Well, I want to mention in that article, because I read the link to the article and looked at the LA Times article, when they talk about K-Hive, and they are trying to paint it in a positive light, but there's one particular paragraph in that article where they accidentally tell the truth and don't even paint it in a positive light. And I'm paraphrasing, but they say something along the lines of, the K-Hive isn't really about ideology or anything like that. They just love Kamala Harris, which isn't that, that's like the neoliberal establishment in a nutshell. It's not about policies. Yeah. It's not about ideas. It's not about principles. It's just about a cult of personality for a politician. That's all it's about. And guess what? A lot of the people involved, they're not even people. They're freaking bots.
And that's a great observation, Ron. And they would call us, when we supported Bernie vehemently, we actually supported his policies when Bernie stopped they would say we're in a cult.
Well, not just that, but just even, and I don't want to like nitpick here, but just the word Bernie bro, when you really think about it, it's so condescending, and it's so it's projection, because those types of personalities, the neoliberal establishment, DNC, whatever you want to call it, they are all about personality, and there's no substance. So they can't imagine anybody who isn't that way. So to them, we're a bunch of Bernie bros. We were just lost in the woods until Bernie told us how to think. And guess what? I was a lefty long before Bernie came along. A lot of people were. Some people evolved politically because of Bernie, and that's great. But what Bernie did, Bernie just showed us we weren't as alone as we thought we were. We're not Bernie followers. We're lefties that just realized there's more of us than we thought initially. But they can't imagine anyone who has political principles outside of the realm of acceptable conversation in the United States, which is basically varying between neo-fascism and neoliberalism. They can't imagine anybody who doesn't fall into that category.
Yeah. And isn't it funny how the people who call anyone with any concern about a woman in power like Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton, they're sexist. The people who say that critics of Kamala are sexist They're the same people who use that, inherently sexist term, Bernie bro. Every Bernie supporter is a fucking man, is a bro. That just erases all women. Kind of fucked up.
So when they were saying that when we supported Bernie that we were in a cult, but then when Bernie actually changed his tune and started pushing bullshit like Joe Biden without extracting anything for his support, or when he was pushing Hillary Clinton without extracting anything for his support, they would say, hey, even Bernie's says to vote for her. Why don't you listen to Bernie? So now they wanted us to be in a cult. Yeah. It's like that. The definition of a cult is you're supposed to follow him. We weren't. We didn't. I didn't follow Bernie, whatever he said. I abandoned Bernie when he abandoned us. So that's the opposite of a cult. This is an actual cult, the K-Hive cult. It's not about her ideas. It's just a cult of personality. That's exactly a cult. So, well done, Matt Orfala. Thank you so much for doing this article. It's over at Gray Zone. Thanks for. Now, have they come at you online for writing this? Now, are they that stupid to actually do that, or are they smart enough to know they shouldn't actually come at you for this?
Are they setting you up for some things that are going to happen? There are a list of things that are about to happen.
So the things that happened was, just as you could expect, just like they accuse everyone that has any criticism of Kamala, sexist, racist, all that wonderful stuff. And I just simply respond with, where's the argument? I just wrote a fucking article about how you motherfuckers were propped up by a network of fake Twitter accounts. What's your argument? It's a fact. And they just respond with racist.
Really?
Yes. And it's wonderful because it just proves my whole article right.
Yes.
And not only that, but see, it's really, people shouldn't be worried. You hear, oh, they're so bad. Yes, they're awful, but you shouldn't be that worried. As soon as I just type a couple sentences of truth and a link to truth, an article backed up by facts, they block me. I don't need to block them. They block me.
Well, what's very, very interesting here. I mean, I'll occasionally get some trolling from, self-proclaimed K-Hive members. I'm sure we all do. And every now and again, be it on Twitter or in particular Instagram, I'll click on the profile just out of curiosity. And thus far, 100% of the time, I'm not saying it happens every day or anything like that, but 100% of the time, it's always some profile with a grainy photo, and it's always some random account that was made that month that has 0 posts, 0 followers, and no one's following them. So either it's a hell of a coincidence, or these are some bots at work. Or paid trolls or something.
Well, there certainly have gotten the support from bots. And, they've benefited from extra exposure from bots. And when this happens in other countries, we hear about it in the news. We'll hear about it in Russia, Mexico, and other countries. And it's even described as infringing on freedom of speech, because it's drowning out real voices, actual human voices being promoted by other real humans. When you promote voices by bots, you're drowning out the real voices. But not only is that not how this is described, this isn't getting described at all in the media.
Well, and it's to the point, and I believe you can help me out here. This screenshot was in your article, and I've seen this screenshot elsewhere as well. There was a apparent alleged K-Hive member that in a tweet was openly boasting about the fact that they had multiple troll accounts. They were bragging about it.
Yes.
Just openly on Twitter, admitting they're doing that.
Yeah. It's incredible. Going back to 2015 even. And he tweeted it, and the widely acknowledged founder of K-Hive, according to K-Hive, retweeted that. So she's boasting about it too. And she herself has been banned several times. And when I published the article, I had 3 former accounts of hers that were suspended. I found 4 more. This is insane since publishing.
And nobody's covering this in the establishment mainstream news. Nobody's covering that.
And they didn't even cover the original discovery of this network in 2018. I asked the author, no coverage. And in this new discovery of that botnet's connection to K-Hive, nothing. We'll see. Except thank you, Jimmy, and a couple others out there. Appreciate it. It is a fucking crazy story.
This is as crazy as it gets. To me, there'll be nothing crazier than Russiagate. That was the all-time craziest story of my life. It was completely manufactured, made up, and it was an excuse for every horrible thing the establishment was doing, and they used it. They never had to change. We got a worse candidate than Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden worse than Hillary Clinton.
There's gonna be careful what you wish for, Jimmy. There's something crazier on the horizon. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna happen.
I can't imagine anything crazier than Russiagate, and the reason why is because half the country took it 100% seriously, and they still do. That's not like QAnon, right? There's only a fraction of the people on the right who believe in QAnon. Unlike Russiagate, everybody on the left totally believes in evidence-free conspiracy theory. Completely. And they still, Al Franken, he dropped a video today. Why would I watch an Al Franken video? Just to see how horrible it is. And Al Franken still sitting there pretending like this conspiracy theorists are all on Fox News. No, go read Matt Taibbi today. Rachel Maddow now officially worse than Bill O'Reilly. But guys like Al Franken and the shit libs on the left and all my old friends in comedy who are now successful still think somehow Rachel Maddow is not a lying corporate tool who's destroying this country. They think they're actually getting the news from her instead of what she's actually there to do. And there's a book written about it. It's called Manufacturing Consent. That's exactly what she's doing. And she's pushing false stories to extend wars and get people killed. And she's lying to you about Joe Biden and the Democrats, just like she lied to you about Donald Trump, Russia, and why we got him as president. It's amazing. And here it is again. And they'll never, and by the way, and YouTube is now helping them silence us and boosting people like Rachel Maddow so they can lie to you more. That's why we need a real revolution, and that's why YouTube needs to be a public utility, which will never happen. Why, Jimmy, will that never happen? Because they own the government, and no one's going to stop it. When we elect people to go stop it, they immediately join the group of people who they're sent there to stop. The Justice Democrats immediately join the regular shit libs. Immediately. They're not pushing for a public option. They're not pushing for $15 minimum wage. They're not pushing for Medicare for all. They're not pushing for student debt relief. They're not pushing for an end to the wars or a cut to the military budget. They're not doing anything, as Kyle Kalinske just said. They're not doing anything that they got sent there to do. So it's here. So it's going to get worse. And as Rachel Maddow makes $30,000 a day pushing shit lib establishment manufacturing consent lies, her fans will call me a grifter while I sit in my garage with no funding, telling you the truth about what the biggest, most powerful, richest, most well-moneyed propaganda machine is telling you is false. But they will call me the grifter when I debunk the fucking corporate manufacturing consent propaganda machine. That is amazing. And of course, no one's going to even tell you about K-Hive. You got to go to the Gray Zone and Matt Orfalea to get this story, or come to Jimmy Dore show when he covers it. It's amazing. Matt, great job. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah. So you mentioned how K-Hive, they're projecting, and not just K-Hive, but the Democratic Party establishment. They're just everything they say is projection that they're really doing themselves. One other thing that we didn't mention is just the pure hatred. So these K-Hive accounts, they are spewing hatred, calling progressives racist, sexist, and glorifying violence. They accuse Donald Trump of elevating hatred. Well, in the case of this bot farm, a Democratic Party communications consultant elevated hatred to undermine progressive candidates and supporters of Bernie Sanders.
So let me just, there's a tweet I retweeted from Taylor Hudak. She says, from what I've learned about how this world works, my view is that I have more trust in those who are smeared and silenced than I do those who are amplified by the establishment. And that's exactly right. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.